Ladies and gentlemen, we've got a look at a new hero, the new jungle, and a visual update to Monolith. We'll be talking about all these changes, but let's start with Morigesh. Morigesh is a close-range caster, using her abilities to keep consistent damage on her enemies and whittle them down in order to assassinate them with a fucking giant image of herself. Faye darling, you fucking dead. Morigesh's affinities are corruption and growth. Morigesh's abilities are as follows. Swarm transforms Morigesh's body into a swarm of insects. During this time you gain a burst of move speed, and if you pass through enemies you will deal damage and gain a stack of health regen. You can see that it's an insane amount as Morigesh gets 135.4 health regen from 5 enemies. That's roughly 26.3 health regen per second per minion for 4 seconds. I believe this is with the ability at level 4, but still it's a really good amount of health regen, especially late game when the waves tend to get really big. I can imagine that you could stack this thing incredibly high. Hive will throw a bug hive to a target location. Enemies will suffer damage over time and will be slowed with every tick of damage. The effect will last even longer if an enemy has been marked. But how does an enemy become marked? Well, obviously with the mark ability. The mark ability will deal damage and steal the very essence of your enemy, creating a doll for your target that Morigesh will carry around. Marked targets stay marked until they die, Morigesh dies, or a new target is chosen to suffer her wrath. Curse is Morigesh's ultimate. She summons a deadly swarm of insect in Morigesh's image to stab whomever was hit by Mark most recently. Curse is a global ultimate, so there is no way to hide. Morigesh has a really interesting kit. She's described by Epic as a close range caster, which means unlike how it's a Gideon and Gadget who can generally hang a bit further back, Morigesh may have to be in the front lines a bit more, and hence the reason for her health regen ability. One thing I really like about Morigesh is her ability to kill secure. Assuming you're marking the right target, you should be able to secure the kills with your ultimate, and with Mark supposedly being on a low cooldown, this should be relatively easy. What will usually happen is an enemy will be out of reach with my auto attack, but they're still pretty close in terms of range. Well, now all Morigesh needs to do is mark them and use Curse to finish the job. I'm wondering if her ultimate can be dodged or maybe CC'd. I'd imagine if you stun Morigesh when she ults, you'd cancel the ultimate, because Morigesh has to physically kill the doll for the larger image of herself to stab the target and deal the damage. There's also the possibility that you could blink out of it. However, I feel like this is unlikely. What is probably possible is Countess being able to evade it with her Shadow Slip, because during the Shadow Slip she's actually not on the map, but it makes for some great cards like Stasis Gem to be able to counter this ultimate. Morigesh in the video is played as a mid laner. I'd probably play her there too. She's got her swarm ability which gives her health regen and movement speed. The latter will be extremely useful for avoiding ganks. She also has Hive, which don't forget slows enemies, so combining these two abilities on a ganker could potentially shut down any ganks. From what I've seen, I also think the offlane could potentially be an option because of her self-sustainability in swarm. The minion wave is almost always pushed under your tower, and with players grouping up waves of minions, you should have no trouble getting quite a bit of health back to keep yourself in lane, something a lot of players struggle to do. I'm really excited to play Morigesh, and while I don't think she's absolutely game changing, as a mid laner myself I think I'm going to enjoy playing her. But let me know what you think about Morigesh in the comment section below. Moving swiftly on, new jungle. Yeah, if you didn't know, I guess now you know. Last night Epic announced a visual update coming to Monolith. It's probably the first thing you notice about the Morigesh video as well, but what you might not have noticed is that the jungle has been reworked. Firstly, let me explain why I think the current jungle was bad, and then the changes they've made to address this. I just want to point out that the changes in this video with regards to visuals and the jungle are meant to happen in the version 39 update, but none of these changes are final until Epic themselves announce them. This is just my reading of the video. The first big change was the Amber Link. The Amber Link was just too easy to abuse. You could take the enemy's Amber Link with almost zero consequences literally 99% of the time. This was was an incredibly bad spot for Epic to put something that was meant to be valuable to your entire team, in a spot that isn't really defendable at all. Well, now it appears that the Amber Link has been moved to the center of the jungle, making it a much more risky endeavor. This is a great change. Going that deep into the jungle should have a risk reward, and I like this idea. Although the change may seem little, moving it to the middle of the jungle from the outer skirts, it in theory should bring in more strategy when it comes to taking the Amber Link. The second change, camps. Oh boy, this is a big one. The most obvious change is that it appears the Amber Link and a white camp have been switched around to situate the Amber Link deeper in the jungle, as previously mentioned. Along with this change, the green buff has also been moved further back. In fact, it's a lot closer to the tier 2 rather than being in line with the tier 1. This white camp has been moved closer to your outer lane tier 2, while this camp remained relatively untouched. The pathing inside the jungle has also been changed. As you can see, a lot of the structures have been removed. It felt like the jungle was compact, tight, and at times even claustrophobic with the limited room you had, so removal of these structures, if this new minimap is to be believed, is a welcome change. The offlane jungle, if you will, has not been touched apart from the removal of this structure. The raptor camps have also slightly been changed. They remain in the same spot, but access to them has changed. Previously, there were only 2 ways to access the raptor camp. Well, there was 3 technically if you had a blink or a teleport ability, and now there's actually 3, I think. It appears as though the raptors now sit on the opposite side to where they currently sit in their pit, to provide a third entry point from the river. I don't think this is just to indicate the current crack on the raptor structure. I actually think this is another entry point like a ramp. An update has been made on the minimap with regards to All Prime, but I'm unsure if this is an update to the minimap or a physical change that has taken place. The third change is to jungle jump pads. This isn't in the video, but Epic mentioned it in their blog post. Jungle jump pads have been removed. Yes, jungle pads only. The reason why Epic removed it, I'm not too sure, but if I had to guess, it's probably because their enemy use your jump pads more than you do. When speaking to some friends of mine, it was clear that jump pads was something the enemies used to escape on low health or to steal your Amber Link in green with 0 consequences and then go and gank your offlaner. It was kind of crazy, especially at the high level. This was an obvious strat and everyone was using it. This could be the reason, but this is just me guessing. That's all the jungle changes I spotted in the video, but what do you think of these changes? The jungle wasn't that fun for me in all honesty, but with the added changes, it could bring more depth and strategy to the jungle role, so let me know in the comment section below. Finally, not much to say because you've seen it throughout this video. Monolith has been visually updated. Okay, it's not amazing, but it's still progress and that's what we want, right? We've got lush trees, actual grass, and yes, the structures are still pretty plain, but inside the jungle it starts to actually look like, well, a jungle. There are spots on the map that are nowhere near done and appear the same, but hey, it's progress. I hope you enjoyed this video. Smash that thumbs up button if you did. Stay subscribed for all the latest content, including a Morigesh guide coming soon.